Another one of my favorite scenes in Season 1 of the Arcane series by Riot Games and Fortiche is the end of Episode 3. It's a powerful scene that is worth exploring when figuring out what is the emotional center of a scene. Per usual, there will be spoilers to the story, so I recommend watching Arcane Season 1 before proceeding further. Now, this final scene in Episode 3 is pivotal as it acts as an act break among the 9 episode structure of the first season. It also reveals a significant break in separating Vi from Powder, later to be known as Jinx, and the breakdown of their sisterly relationship. This is where we see young Vi and Powder get separated due to a tragic series of events. Once again, I'm using Judith Weston's directing actors as a reference for studying this scene. When we're looking at the emotional center of a scene, we're asking, what is this scene really about at the most primal level? What's really going on, and how is it moving from one point to the next? To figure out the emotional center of the scene, it's worth diving into some of the story beats to get familiar with the raw emotional territory for these two characters, Vi and Powder. At the top of the scene, a mutated Vander has leapt through a window in Silco's hideout, rescuing Vi amidst a raging fire and explosion. Vi wakes up on the other side of the jump to find Vander dying and uttering his last words, "Take care of Powder." Vi is traumatized because she's losing her surrogate father figure, Vander, when he dies. On top of that, her two friends, Milo and Klager, were also killed in the explosion. So in these moments after Vander's death, Vi is regrouping and realizing that she and Powder are truly alone at this point. But Vi has little time to grieve before she's interrupted by Powder, who revels in victory, believing that her monkey bomb devices have caused the explosion and saved the day. Two things are happening at the same time at this story beat. One, Vi realizes that Powder had caused the explosion and ensuing deaths, and Powder also disobeyed Vi's order to stay behind at their home. Second, Powder realizes that her bombs worked, but she caused the deaths of their surrogate family. It's fascinating to watch both sisters change in their expressions and body language as their realizations are happening at the same time. Vi slowly descends into anger when she asks Powder, "Why did you do this?" And Powder can only respond with disbelief. "I was saving you. I only wanted to help," as she realizes that Milo and Klager are also dead because of her. The scene quickly turns when Powder starts to beg Vi for mercy, and Vi angrily slaps Powder, saying, "I told you to stay away." Some of the most painful moments in the scene play out when Powder cries out to Vi, "Why did you leave me?" I think this beat reveals one of Powder's greatest fears, which is that the most important person in her world, her sister Vi, might abandon her. And this is where Vi starts to fail in Vander's assignment to her to look after her sister. After Powder cries out, "Why did you leave me?" Vi cuts deep into Powder's heart by saying, "Because you are a Jinx. Do you hear me? Milo was right." The camera cuts to a POV close-up on Powder's face as Vi's hands clench her face. It's terrifying looking into Powder's eyes and seeing the raw vulnerability in her expression. This breaks Vi's out of her rage as she releases Powder's face from her grip. What follows is another intriguing story beat because we see Vi looking at her bandaged hand coated with blood. These are the same hands that she used earlier to fight off Silco's henchmen and to try to rescue Vander. And it's also the same hand that struck her sister just moments ago. Perhaps this is a moment when she realizes what she's capable of. When Vi looks back to a pleading Powder and tenses up, I think Vi is hitting her limits. She's exasperated and doesn't know what to do. She's angry at Powder. She's angry at herself. All she can do is to collect herself the best she can and walk away to break the tension, which will prove to be a major mistake. As the camera pulls away on Powder crying out, "Vi, come back, I need you," Vi stumbles away to stew in a dark corner. And Silco emerges and approaches a crying Powder. Vi looks up to see Silco standing over her sister holding a knife and tries to run to rescue her. But Vi is stopped and subdued by Marcus, who will eventually put her in prison. This story beat effectively uses the element of surprise to create an obstacle and further draw out the tension in the scene. One of the things I appreciate about Arcane's storytelling in Season 1 is how characters misinterpret each other's actions and intentions, and this leads to further conflict. So here, when Vi is dragged away by Marcus, Powder interprets Vi walking away and disappearing as a true abandonment. These actions give us more clues to the emotional center of the scene. When Silco approaches Powder along with his henchmen, I think he may have intended to get information from Powder on Vi's whereabouts to capture or kill Vi, but he didn't expect that Powder would leap into his arms and cling to him, saying, "She left me. She's not my sister anymore." The scene turns again on Silco's realization that Vi and Powder's relationship have changed, and also that their father figure, Vander, is dead. Silco chooses to embrace Powder, telling her, "It's okay, we'll show them. We'll show them all." In this moment, I think Silco provided the comfort and empathy that Powder needed in her darkest moment of abandonment. I think the emotional center of the scene is really about Powder's worst fears being confirmed and the birth of a new self because of a new surrogate father-daughter relationship with villain Silco. To put it in an extreme term, the scene is almost like a spiritual death of Powder and the rise of a new persona from the ashes, who we will later get to see as Jinx. For Powder's emotional arc in the first 3 episodes of Season 1, she is experiencing a coming of age as she loses all of her surrogate family and gains a new one in Silco and his crew. This emotional pain of loss and the reversal of acceptance that Powder experiences in this scene sets her on a path that drives the rest of Season 1 over the next 6 episodes. I find Powder's experience so relatable in this scene because in our darkest moments of feeling abandoned, we feel this existential crisis of being alone, not knowing who we are when core relationships are ripped from us, and when we're burdened by guilt and shame for feeling worthless. The scene gives Powder emotional scars that she wrestles with, and which drive her actions in later scenes. When looking at trauma, we can see how significant pain from our past shapes our worldview and the way we see ourselves and others. Studying this final scene in episode 3 of Arcane Season 1 continues to haunt me when thinking about its emotional center. It really points to the power of storytelling in revealing our greatest vulnerabilities and also the extent to which we can hurt each other. I think it also reveals the challenge of traumatic pain and how it can shape the trajectory of our lives.